Hi folks, today we're going to do an unbox of the Miniserver Compact. It's Loxone's newest mini server. It fits in between the Miniserver Go and the Miniserver. Essentially it's a condensed down version of it. So we're going to unbox it, we're going to do its initial setup, and then we're going to have a quick discussion about the differences and potentially the benefits for you picking this mini server over another mini server for your project. Alright, let's unbox it. So right on this video, we'll flip it around. You'll notice it's got the quality seal right there. And you'll notice that there is a serial number over there, but for obvious reasons, I have taped it for privacy reasons. Alright, let's go ahead and open it up. So we'll just break the seal, put the knife away. Let's open this up. And right away, as we expect, we got a resistor. That's for the Loxone link. We've got the Miniserver Compact manual. It's got the nice little diagrams on it. So this is pretty important if you're doing the installation. You can write down the serial number of your mini server. You can then write down what the inputs are. So I really quite like to have this on hand or have a digital version of this so that when I'm doing a project I can have a quick impact, like a binder full of all these pieces, and then it'll just tell me where everything is. Just don't write anything down too early because 9 times out of 10 you'll change your mind during installation. We've got some cardboard protector, which Loxone is good at using. You can recycle that quite easily. And then we have the Miniserver Compact here, and we have one more device, which is the tree connection. So the resistor is there. I'll take the resistor off and I'll bring that in. So essentially this is what you get inside the box with a Miniserver Compact. It's pretty standard stuff. You got your manual. You've got if you've never used this device before, it basically just allows you to, it's a punch tool, essentially. We'll get it on the camera right there. And essentially what this does is it allows you to punch the tree connection on the valve actuator. Typically I've only just used it on a valve actuator, but any small screwdriver can do the trick. So this is not really that important. But resistor is super important. It's nice to have these handy. This is a nice beefy resistor. It's much beefier than the ones that they used to provide. But that resistor is used to terminate the Loxone link. And now if we're looking at the Miniserver Compact, you see your standard stuff, but what's really good is you do see the color coordination. So you have the 24-volt power supply, the Loxone link, the Loxone tree, and then this one is new. This one, it looks like the Loxone stereo, which is for the audio server, because this does have an audio server built inside of it. And if we look at the top side, that's your network connection. There's your SD card that you see at the very top. So if you push it in, the SD card comes out. There it is. It's an Loxone S1. It's an industrial SD card. Let's see. This SD card looks like an 8 GB SD card. But you should always just make sure it's pushed in on your new device. It might seem like it is. You'll be able to configure it, but then sometimes it's just not pushed in properly. So I like to take it out, push it back in. USB in there, that's for adding your own music, so your own USB port. And then we have what just looks like an AI input, so just your audio input. And with these things, I always remember, just be careful because these things can go flying off when you push them down and you add your connectors. So let's just take a quick look at the manual, make sure we were on point there. So yeah, we have their DC power supply, we have our Loxone link or tree. So this is interesting. The Loxone link can be used as a link or a tree. Our tree connection and our tree turbo, which is used for audio. Relays, pretty straightforward. On the relays portion, you have 2 relays on both sides, and then you have your digital inputs. But you also notice that we have a digital air. So this is the Loxone Air on this device. So the unboxing is pretty straightforward. So now we'll go ahead, I'll set it up on my bench demo, and we'll take a look from there. So I'll stop the video here, and we'll continue on in a second. Hey folks, so I've plugged in the Miniserver Compact to a power supply. As you can see on the screen right here, it's connecting. So it looks like it's connected. So we'll go back to the Loxone config that we have here. You open up Loxone config. I'm using Loxone 13.1.11.17. I'll just do a quick search for the mini. It's the first one there. It's a brand new mini server. So it's going to be admin and admin. Do the initial setup. Converting the Miniserver Compact reduces the number of inputs. all seating sensors will be moved to a dummy extension. That's fine. So we'll press OK. So let's give this a demo. So we'll just call it TSP demo. You do not need to put a street address or any of this details. Does not matter. We'll pick Vancouver because that's where we're at over here. Or you can set the time manually. We'll click next. Now, you can give it a name. You can do TSP demo 2 or TSP compact demo. You can use DHCP if you want, or static IP. Typically when I start off on a project, I like to do DHCP. You'll see the benefit of this because you'll probably, when you're home, your Miniserver will probably go on and off multiple times, and you can set up a static IP, and what can end up happening is you can make it very difficult for yourself to log back into it. So to save yourself some headache, better to stick with DHCP right now, and then come back and change the port and whatnot settings. So initial setup will do this. Remote access, so this is just using Loxone's DNS. You can use your manual external DNS right here. So this is a new method with the Miniserver Go, the Miniserver Gen 2, which is now the Miniserver, and then the Miniserver Compact. Back in the day, you used to have to assign the port, get your own DNS, blah, blah, blah. Now, you don't have to do anything. You just get the Loxone partner that you bought the Miniserver from to register it, and then you can essentially just use Loxone's DNS to get in. And then you can also do manual. So some clients who are really more network savvy will change all these HTTPS ports to HTTP. They'll change the DNS. They'll use their own DNS instead of the Loxone DNS. And there's lots of different ways to do this. If you have the knowledge, go through here, play with it. If not, you can stick with remote access, or you can just stick with no remote access, which is also perfectly fine. You just have to be on the same network as a Miniserver. For some installations, we've done no remote access where it's monitoring some assets that are pretty vital, and we just want nobody on the internet to ever access the system to change it. So that's pretty much it. And then allow this Miniserver to be configured remotely with Loxone config. Obviously, for my clients, I like to leave that on, but that might not be something that you find valuable to you. So you can turn this off, and that way, when you're playing with your own home, that way you're the only one that's allowed to play with it. And if you ever do need support, you can just come back and turn this on. So we'll finish this off, and voila, here we go. We have the Miniserver Compact, exactly like we saw in the drawings. It's right there. You have your digital inputs right there. It has digital outputs, which are the relays, so you can add your relays here. It's got the link, it's got the tree and the tree audio, and then I assume, yeah, right here from the Loxone link, you can make it a Loxone tree as well, which is great. So you can add tree devices to your Miniserver Compact. Everything else looks actually the same. I've never actually logged into a Miniserver Compact. This is my first time into it, and everything else looks really the same. Automatic updates is good. The Loxone log, you can send this. I normally don't. You can change your style of paper. So the paper is actually quite important for some of you. So you can actually save this, like you can print these pieces out, or you can even just make PDFs of this. And so sometimes you'll do this and you provide to a client, or you just want to back up for yourself, or if you just want to scribble. Sometimes I like to scribble. The program, it will always tell you that this is not configured properly. So you may, oops, sorry, move my head out of the way. So right over here, it may tell you some things aren't configured properly. Not a big deal. It's you don't really need to. I mean, you can just do things like, let's just say pick a country. Sure, we're in Bulgaria, 10249, and that's fine. So now we are going to search. We're going to connect, and now that it's done, cancel. And we're going to save it in. Admin. So it's asking me an edit password, and we're using admin. This password is insecure, so we'll use admin123. Nope, 123 exclamation mark, and apply. Sure, it's going to give you an update. You want to go ahead and update it, which is fine. We don't want to load from the software. So if you're speaking English, if you load from the software, you're actually going to get. Sorry, I'm going to scoot over here again. You're going to get an Austrian version, so you really don't want that. You really want a basic. If you're using English, you say no. If you can speak the right language, sure. I always just say no, and you can pick your own language. So you're just going to load it through. It's going to ask you these questions right here. Do you want to back up? Honestly, you don't need to. You install the update and you're done. Now your Miniserver is ready to go. It's configured as you want it to. The username and passwords are there. And then you can just play back and forth with it. If you ever do get lost, and this is just standard with Miniservers, if you're ever like, I forgot my password, forgot everything, there's lots of easy ways to reset your password. I'll do a quick video on that later on, or maybe Daniel will, on how to reset your passwords. So that's basically it. It's really simple. The Miniserver Compact looks great. It looks like we've got some good options and some good things to play with. I've got a stereo extension. I've got the tree. I've got 2 tree outputs, so I can do 100 tree devices with it. I can do Loxone Link with it if I want to, or if I really wanted to, I can do a network connection and tie it into another Miniserver Go and do the Loxone Link that way. So there's lots of good options on this device that I'm seeing that kind of make it a good go-between between the two pieces. I'm going to switch screens now, so I'm going to log off for a quick second and then come back with a PowerPoint. And we'll look through the differences of having a Miniserver Go, a Miniserver Compact, and a Miniserver from a cost perspective based on the USD, and then even from a functionality basis. So connecting to this Miniserver has been super easy. This is my first time actually ever connecting to a Miniserver Compact to see what's in it. It's pretty much exactly the same as Miniserver Go and the Miniserver in order to connect to it. You just see more options. So right now it's rebooting. So if you go over here, you'll see the lights blinking on and off to reboot. But if we're looking at in terms of functionality and what this thing can offer, it's pretty standard to be honest. I mean, we're getting a lot of good, like the Tree Turbo gives us the ability to add stereo extensions, which is great. So we can just add as many, so we can add stereo extensions. Let's just go here. So we want to add a stereo extension, and so we can add that, and then that becomes our zone. So if you zoom in here, you can see what you can do. Each stereo extension has an SPD-IF out. You have 2 speakers left and right. So you can control audio, you can stack that. We can switch this to a Loxone Link, and then we can do it that way. We've got tree intercommunication. I don't know if you can see it on the screen here, but tree intercommunication allows you to talk to other Loxone products. So that's why I was saying earlier, you can do, instead of doing it this way, you can use this to go to a Miniserver Go and use that for extensions. So it really provides a lot of options to scale the device quite nicely. You can add your intercom, and since this is an audio server built inside of it, you can actually manage your video intercom while also managing the hardware. What's interesting from what Loxone has said is that this device here, so when we're looking at this Miniserver, the Miniserver Go, the Miniserver, and the Miniserver Compact all have the same CPU. So essentially the compute power, so when you see here like the 2% utilization that's on the screen, it will be the same no matter what software you're using. So whether you're using this piece or you're using another piece, it'll always be the same, and you can always use this. So it's really good to know. It's really great stuff. You'll probably see the serial number that's supposed to be here all blurred out. Once again, it's just for protection for this Miniserver, whoever's home it ends up going to, or if it ends up on my bench, it doesn't matter. I have a few already, but we'll talk about those projects. Anyway, we'll switch screens in a second, and we'll get to the next screen, and then we'll go through some of those details. Okay, guys, now for the final part of this unboxing, let's go ahead and look at what's most important to you, the homeowner, which is the prices. Now, I really wanted to make sure I could get an apples to apples comparison of the 3 different Miniservers that are currently available. So on the screen you see a Miniserver Go, which is the one right over here. You see the Miniserver Compact, which is the one we unboxed today for the first time for myself. And then we have a Miniserver Gen 2, which is now just called a Miniserver. Now, they all have different prices and there's different benefits. So I did a comparison based on US dollars in January 2023. So the Miniserver Go is $522 USD, and this does not include any shipping. The Miniserver Compact is $693, and the Miniserver is $870. So there's about a $170 difference from going one way to another. So it's really bang smack in the middle. So I figured, okay, well, let's look at how do we compare that. So let's talk about the communication features. The Miniserver Compact is kind of designed, or it seems like it's designed to communicate in multiple protocols. It looks like it's designed for like a quick mini server install, so something that you can get in there, do a bunch of different things. You can probably get a decent sized home, about 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, or an apartment building, and just kind of cycle through these things pretty quickly. So the Miniserver Compact has the Loxone Link, the Loxone Tree, Loxone Air, the Loxone Tree Turbo, and the Loxone Audio Server. Now, what's important to note here on the audio server, on the audio server is that you get a little bit of it. You do not get the full kind of audio server package. So I'm just going to shrink myself down a bit, way over there. So the Loxone audio server in this case will not be, it won't have any output. So it won't have a left and right speaker to it, the one right above me. You'll only have the ability to do, to connect to the Tree Turbo, which would connect to stereo extensions. So this is, although it has this feature, it kind of has a little bit of a limitation, but it's good for playing music in your house. There's a really good part there, and it gives you the USB. So now let's look at the inputs and outputs. Once again, this is as of January 2023, so whenever you see this video, there might be updates to this mini server in terms of new extensions, or they might release a new version. But we have the Miniserver Go, the Miniserver Compact, and the Miniserver once again, sticking with the same format. The USB is important because this allows you to play music locally. It allows you to store some files from the intercom. The files from the intercom can be stored on the intercom micro SD. I apologize. But it does let you kind of plug in music. So if you want to store some of your own music, you can go ahead and play it that way. Or you can create your own MP3s that you want your house to play for you. Like, hey, get out of my room, or kids, why did you come in so late? So next we have digital inputs. Miniserver Go has none. The Miniserver Compact, once again, it's in between. It has 4, and then the Miniserver, it has 8. And this is used for door contacts, window sensors, yada, yada, yada. The analog input, the Miniserver Go, once again, has 0. The Miniserver Compact also has 0, and the Miniserver has 4. So these can be used to read sensors. We typically don't use them that often in our installations, but it does not mean that they are not useful. And now Loxone has 4 to 20 milliamp inputs, so these can be more and more beneficial for commercial sensors that you might want for your house, for something that you want in your garage or irrigation or other pieces. Digital outputs, these are the relays. These can be used for lights, which is basically an on-off control. So you can use these to control lights, pumps, motors, garage door openers, whatever it is that you need. The Miniserver Go has 0, Miniserver Compact has 2, and the Miniserver has 8. Finally, the tree devices. So the Miniserver Go has 0, and the Miniserver Compact has 50 or 100, depending how you use the link, and the Miniserver has 50. A couple of things I did not consider: the Loxone Link, because that is standard on every single one of Loxone devices, so there's no point in talking about it. So now that we've done the I/O features, let's kind of develop a baseline. So we need a baseline to be, kind of figure out, like, what are we comparing? You want to compare apples to apples. You don't want to say, it's really difficult in the automation world to try to get everything to match the same. But I've tried my best here. So I created a baseline, and I said, this is the baseline that I want all the mini servers to be able to do. So of all 3 that the Loxone currently offers, I need them to have a USB so I can store music. I need them to have 8 digital inputs, which you remember, if you recall from our previous slide, was from our mini server. I need them to have 4 analog inputs, which once again is from our mini server. And I need them to have 8 digital outputs, which we go back is from our mini server. And I need them to have 50 tree devices, which if we go back, we see it's on our mini server. Now we could have 100 if we wanted to, but I really wanted to just go for the bare minimum baseline, so we have an idea of kind of apples to apples. I need to have Loxone Tree, I need to have Loxone Air, I need to have the Loxone Audio Server, and the Loxone Tree Turbo. So I did all the math. It took a little bit of time, but here it is. So the January 2023 apples to apples prices in US dollars. It looks a little bit overwhelming, so I'm just going to walk you through with it one by one. First one, USB. I need the feature of USB, so I need the audio server for that. Now, because remember, as I mentioned earlier, the Miniserver Compact has an audio server but does not have the left and right speaker output. It does not have that output. In order to get that output, you would need a stereo extension, which is exactly half the price of the audio server. So for that, I discounted the audio server by 50% to give it a fair assessment of value. So here, the USB is $670, which is the price of the audio server currently, divided by 2. Now, if we go to the Miniserver Compact, you'll see don't need it because the Miniserver Compact has it. And then for the Miniserver, once again, 670 divided by 2, because this would give us our baseline audio server that would be able for all 3 devices to be compared together at the same price. Next, digital inputs. The digital input extension is $378, and it has 20 inputs, and so we only need 8. So we divide 378 by 20, multiply it by 8. That's the price per each digital input. And once again, this is not like something you can buy. If you bought the digital input extension, you would have to pay the full price for all 20, but we are trying to give a real price comparison for each 3 together. The Miniserver Compact only has 4, so we'd only need 4 inputs to match it, and then the Miniserver, that is our baseline, it already has everything we need. Analog inputs, same thing, 270, 270. Because the analog input only has 4 inputs, which is our baseline, essentially the Miniserver Go and the Miniserver Compact would use fully an analog input extension, and the Miniserver, once again, is 0. Digital outputs, same thing as with the DI. The digital inputs, we have to have 8. The price of a relay extension is $448 USD. It has 14 outputs, so we take 448 divided by 14. We have the price per single digital output. We multiply it by 8, which is our requirement for the Miniserver Go. And same thing with Miniserver Compact, and then once the Miniserver is 0. Other point here, tree extensions. So I know we can do 50 on every other one. So the Miniserver Compact and the Miniserver have 50 on them, but the tree extension actually gives you 100. So I had to divide it by 2 to give, once again, a fair valuation. Now, Loxone Tree, it's the same as the Loxone Tree devices. I put it twice so you kind of get an idea of where they're correlated. So once again, there's zeros across the board. Loxone Air, zeros across the board for the first 2. And then the Airbase is 144. Now the Airbase extension can carry just as many devices as what the Miniserver Go and the Miniserver Compact does, so we don't need to discount that price. Loxone Audio Server, once again, we mentioned it before, so nothing across there. And then Tree Turbo, same thing. By adding the audio server, you get the Tree Turbo, so it's included within the audio server on line 1. And then finally, we have our power supply. Now the Miniserver Go actually has a USB power supply that comes with it that you basically plug into any wall receptacle, and it gets fed from that USB, and that's the power supply for the Miniserver Go. You don't need to buy that extra that comes with the Miniserver Go. However, with the Miniserver Compact and the Miniserver, you do have to have an additional power supply. In the case today for our video, I use my bench supply, so I didn't need to buy one, but for an installation for your home, you would probably need to buy a power supply. So I used a minimum 1.3 amp power supply, a DIN rail mounted power supply. That's $59 here. And that kind of gives us all the prices that I can think of that would compare apples to apples, the Miniserver Go, the Miniserver Compact, and the Miniserver. So finally, I took it onto an Excel sheet, did all the calculations, and this is the difference. The Miniserver Compact with all those features comes in at $1,289.60. The Miniserver Go comes in a little bit higher, about $316 higher at $1,606.20. And then the good old Miniserver, I thought that would come lower, actually comes at $1,408, which is about $118 difference. Now this is pretty great. So the price difference is not bad at all. But there is one thing I should mention, and you'll notice that here down at the very, very bottom. I mentioned that if you don't need the panel, so I'll just go right about here, right over here, 111.60. So if no panel is needed for the Miniserver Go, then the Miniserver Go does not have to have a panel, and in this case I assumed a basic junction box, some DIN rail, and some finger conduit, and then some Romex or 14 gauge wire to run to the power supply. I did not include the cost of a certified electrician to do the installation of that. So it's about $111 is the difference between a Miniserver Go and a Miniserver Compact if you were to install the Miniserver Compact within a panel. Now, if you have it free floating like what I showed earlier, you don't need that. And that really just depends on your installation, because if you're not using anything 120 volt based, it can be used low voltage. But if you're going to use those relays for anything, I would argue anything above 24 volt DC, then you should probably put it within a panel. But as always, consult with the professionals locally and follow the guidelines that you have. And that wraps up our video. Please subscribe or leave comments for videos that you may want to see. Daniel and I are really trying to provide more and more education for potential Loxone homeowners or existing Loxone homeowners on trying to decide what system that you want for your home. We really, really do believe that a smart and independent home does need a smart and independent homeowner. Thanks for watching. Cheers.